Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Facebuster Wrestling Podcast. We are fresh out of Money in the Bank. We also had Monday Night Raw just aired tonight. Sorry I'm a little bit late on this episode, and also I apologize if you hear explosions in the background. It is July 3rd, the night of July 3rd as I record this. And July 4th is a little fucky this year because it falls on a Tuesday, so people have been setting off fireworks and all that pretty much through the weekend and tonight. So if you hear any explosions, don't worry. I'm not in a war zone. I'm just in America, and it is the eve of Independence Day during the week. So people are sort of spreading the celebration out, it seems, throughout the weekend and the beginning of the week. I'm sure it'll be worse tomorrow, so let's try to get this out of the way tonight. Anyway, let's get right into it. Pretty decent show for Money in the Bank this year. Live from London, the crowd was raucous. Some might say obnoxious. I enjoyed it. I love crowds like that. I have no problem with it. It was mentioned in the post-show, the media scrum, or the whatever they call it, the press conference after the event had ended, that some of the superstars were questioning some of the chanting that was going on. To be completely honest, I didn't understand half of the chants that were going on. I was indeed waiting for the "if you hate Roman, take your shoes off" chant, a la what they used to do to Zach Gibson, aka Rip Fowler, in NXT. He used to get that treatment pretty hard in NXT UK live events. And I was not disappointed. They broke that one out, and it was kind of nostalgic, not going to lie. But a good show, exciting, high levels of energy throughout. For predictions, I got 4 out of 7. One of the matches I did not cover in the prediction show because I had no idea it was happening. I saw nothing. I must have missed it, I guess, but I swear I saw nothing listed about the Women's Tag Team Championship match between Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler and Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. I had zero clue that was happening. I did, however, count that as a loss because, just to be transparent, I would not have expected this outcome. I would have predicted Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler to win. So I got that one incorrect, even though I didn't predict it. I'm going to give myself the L on that anyway, because I know I would have picked it incorrectly had I mentioned it on the prediction show. So 4 out of 7, not too bad. There weren't as many surprises as I had expected. Of course, we saw the return of Drew McIntyre. Didn't see that one coming, though I guess I should have, given the fact they were overseas in Europe. That makes sense. But I was expecting Brock Lesnar to show his face. I was expecting perhaps a Randy Orton return during the Gunther and Matt Riddle post-match hullabaloo. But that did not happen either. However, the reports are that Randy Orton his return is imminent, so we may be seeing him sooner than later, regardless of him not showing up at this event. We'll just go one by one off the card here as far as results matching with predictions. Cody Rhodes versus Dominic. I picked Rhodes to win, but I did pick Rhodes to win by DQ via a Lesnar interruption. I predicted that Lesnar would return and fuck with this match somehow, attack Cody, and give him the win via disqualification. That did not happen, as I had predicted. However, Rhodes did win, so I'm going to count that, okay? Give me a break. Gunther versus Matt Riddle. Gunther did indeed retain his championship, his Intercontinental Championship, but sans the appearance of RKO at the end, as I had predicted, but still got that one correct. The match that I had no idea was taking place, Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler lost to Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. Morgan and Rodriguez take back the tag team championships in a very surprising manner. with the turning of Shayna Baszler on Ronda Rousey. I'll get into that in more detail in a bit. But again, as I had stated, I would have had this one wrong, so I'm giving myself the loss on that one. Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa versus Jimmy and Jey Uso in the Bloodline Civil War. I picked Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa to win this one because I figured there's no way Roman can stand to lose this match. I thought they had to beat the Usos based on how the Usos had recently humiliated them. The the high stature of Roman could not stand to take such a hit as to lose to his cousins at this event. At least is what I thought. And the fantasy booker in me, as you may have listened to on the previous couple episodes, I was predicting the, I guess, debut of a new iteration of the Bloodline with some new recruits coming to Roman's aid if this match got out of hand. That did not happen. I still expect Roman to surround himself with more bodies, with more dudes, with more with more help. He's lost the power in numbers suddenly with the Usos' departure. So I figure at some point Roman will find some guys to join up with him and Solo and Paul Heyman. Just not this night as I had hoped. But yeah, I had picked Roman and Solo to win this, and I got that one wrong. Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor for the Heavyweight Championship. Of course, Rollins retained. I did, in fact, get that one correct. Becky Lynch, Bayley, Trish, Io Sky, Zoe Stark, and Zelina in the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. I picked that one correctly. Io Sky was the victor. She claimed the suitcase with a little bit of back and forth with Bayley. A very clever spot with the handcuffs that were introduced earlier in the match by Zoe Stark, trying to restrict Becky Lynch in some form so she and Trish could beat the shit out of her. That backfired. The cuffs stayed on Becky Lynch, and Io was the one to utilize them later by handcuffing her to Bayley from both sides of the ladder, incapacitating them, and she climbed over Bayley to take the suitcase. Really clever spot for Io Sky to clinch the briefcase that way. So that was a win for my predictions. And last but not least, the men's Money in the Bank ladder match: Logan Paul, Ricochet, LA Knight, Damien Priest, Santos Escobar, Butch, and Shinsuke. And I did not pick this one correctly. I picked Logan Paul to win this. Damien Priest ended up winning this. I'm happy for this outcome. I mentioned on the previous episode, on the prediction episode, I think Damien Priest is very much deserving of this. However, I just thought, Logan Paul, it would be brilliant marketing for WWE to award the briefcase this year, at least, to Logan Paul. There's so much that he could do with that briefcase as far as social media exposure, general media exposure, stuff on his podcast. He could have it on. I've never seen his podcast. I don't know the setup, but he could have it visible somewhere if he does a video style of the podcast that he posts on YouTube. I assume he does because we've seen clips of it on WWE. But, there's just so much Logan Paul for who he is. There's so much that he could have done to bring more visibility to the Money in the Bank briefcase. Not that it's not well known as a feature of WWE, but his reach, Logan Paul's reach, is just so far, and he's got similar demographics to WWE. Logan Paul is his demographic, I think, is younger people on YouTube. So yeah, he's reaching a lot of the same group of people that WWE caters to, but at the same time, just that duo, of an iconic WWE item like the Money in the Bank briefcase being prominently featured wherever he goes by a guy like Logan Paul would just put more eyes on it. It would make it a little bit more popular, I think, and there's just so many things they could have done with that. But Damien Priest deserves it. A lot of question about why LA Knight was not given this opportunity. I know clearly they have something in mind for Damien Priest, probably involving Finn Balor and tension in the Judgment Day. Again, I like it, but if not Logan Paul, it's very clear that everybody wanted LA Knight to win this. LA Knight is just so fucking over at this point. There's no denying it. He's trying desperately to remain a heel. I'm sure WWE is trying to get him to remain a heel, and he still does the heel shit. He's not out there acting like a face. He's not slapping hands and signing autographs when he comes down to the ring or anything. But Jesus fucking Christ, LA Knight is over as hell. I had mentioned before, and I mentioned this also back when the draft took place. I had hoped to see at some point LA Knight versus Austin Theory. I thought that would be a great program. I think that's a great matchup with a lot of potential. Those two would have a great program together, I believe, and I've mentioned it before. I'm starting to hear it being rumored that is what they have in store for LA Knight, and if so, good. I hope that's the case. This guy certainly deserves to be in some sort of title picture at the moment, if not the Money in the Bank briefcase owner. So be on the lookout for that. That would, again, be a really cool program to see. But yeah, Damien Priest, certainly deserving. He's got a ton of momentum, especially after his stuff with Bad Bunny coming out of that. It was a situation where a guy can take a loss and just still continue. It still elevated him. That loss to Bad Bunny, that match with Bad Bunny, still elevated him despite him taking the loss. He's on an upward trajectory, and if they're going to do something with Damien Priest, they certainly need to do it sooner than later, because the guy is no spring chicken. He's been in the game for a while. He's been in WWE now for a while. It's easy to forget how long this guy has already been on the main roster. It's been a few years. And he was in NXT, I think, at least a year, maybe two. And he was Punishment Martinez. He was in the Indies for a very, very long time. This guy is in his 40s, I believe, at this point, so it's time to do something with him now. And that's not to say the same thing about LA Knight. He's up there in age. He's been around. He's not a rookie out of developmental, straight out of NXT or anything. Yeah, he was in NXT, but it's time to pull the trigger at some point soon. So Damien Priest getting the opportunity that I feel that he deserves. I'm sure a lot of people would agree with that. I know most people wanted LA Knight to be in the spot, but LA Knight's going to get his opportunity. So let's not cry too hard about it. Let's just realize that there's more opportunity outside of this Money in the Bank briefcase. The spotlight doesn't have to be contained exclusively to the main championship on either show. You could be just as hot and just as popular and make a mid-tier title just as relevant and just as hyped up of a program. And that's a springboard, that's a stepping stone to the next level. Not everybody is going to go straight to the top tier title of their show. Use the United States Championship as a stepping stone to the next level. Continue to elevate yourself, continue to get yourself more over, continue to add depth to your character, continue to add layers to your story, and by the time you do get to that top level, you're that much more of a draw. You're that much more popular with the fans. So by no means is this concerning that LA Knight, despite his popularity, did not take the Money in the Bank contract. He's going to be fine. He will move on to something just as good, and it's not out of the realm of possibilities that by the end of the year, this guy finds himself going for the undisputed Universal Championship. So nothing to worry about with LA Knight. Let's just be patient. Damien Priest, though, although I didn't pick him to win this, he is certainly... I'm not mad about it. He is a deserving candidate to hold the Money in the Bank briefcase and to run with that and to be elevated by that for a while. So where does Damian Priest go from here, though, with the Judgment Day? Because clearly this is adding some tension to that faction, of which we've already seen before Damian Priest even won this match. We've seen the issues he's had with Finn Balor over the last month or two, as far as Finn interfering in Damian's matches and Damien being upset about it. We saw the unaired post-match, post-Raw handshake between Damian Priest and Seth Rollins not too long ago. We know they've been a little uneasy with each other in backstage segments. And of course, as I've talked about, we've seen JD McDonough really silently being introduced to this thing. We've seen that one time when JD first got to the main roster, he was doing a backstage interview with Kathy Kelly, I believe, and as he was walking away to the parking lot, we saw Finn appear out of the shadows and watched him leave. A couple weeks later, we saw a snippet of Finn Balor and JD talking shop in the back. It's very slowly being teased JD McDonough's involvement with Finn Balor in some form or fashion. So I assume at some point, as I've speculated before on these episodes, that JD McDonough is going to be involved with the Judgment Day. When that happens, how that happens, not exactly sure, but I expect it to happen, certainly. And just look at it on paper, JD McDonough is a fantastic candidate to join the Judgment Day. It would work perfectly. His personality, his character would mesh very well in a faction like the Judgment Day. He's like a serial killer-esque psychopath who, he lauds his knowledge of anatomy as a way to more easily dissect opponents in the ring. He works with surgical precision. He's also a bit of a fucking maniac. So that screams Judgment Day to me. It would work too perfectly. So as I've talked about before, I figure maybe this tension will lead to Finn Balor starting to lean on his protege, JD McDonough, a little bit as far as having backup goes, because maybe all this tension is making it hard for Finn Balor to trust Damien Priest, to trust the rest of Judgment Day to have his back when needed, especially when Damien Priest is complaining about Finn Balor attempting to have his back in situations like Damien's match with Seth Rollins not too long ago, where it seemed that Damien Priest sort of blamed Finn Balor for interfering in the match and trying to help Damien Priest, costing him that heavyweight championship match against Seth Rollins. So that will start to bubble up that this weird relationship tension with Finn Balor and Damien Priest will allow JD McDonough to insert himself into the picture via Finn Balor, depending on him more and more, causing strife between him and Damien Priest. Like, well, I'd still have your back. We have our issues, Finn, but what's this guy doing here? And slowly but surely, I see this being a possible vehicle for splitting Damien Priest from the Judgment Day. And I know we've heard reports that the WWE is extremely high on this version of the Judgment Day, and they have every reason to be. They've far exceeded expectations. When this group was first formed with Edge, it was a little, it was visually cool, but it felt a little tacky, and it felt a little out of place and off. It didn't really, it took a while for the ball to get rolling and for this thing to develop any sort of steam, at least in my eyes. But now it's a great, respected faction in this company, and they don't really ever do anything that I don't like to see. I'm constantly entertained by the heel antics of everyone in this group, and it's an interesting faction because they operate so individually very well. Like, Yeah, you'll see the group as a whole a lot, but how often, it's not all the time that they all come out for each other's matches all of the time. Like, for the most part, and they all have their own separate entrance music and shit. That's what I mean. Like, these guys these guys don't need each other all of the time. They don't have to all come out for each other's matches. That's a little bit unique, you know. It's not often seen from factions that just an individual will come out on their own. Usually it's Dominic and Rhea will come out on their own, and Finn will come out on his own, and Damien Priest will come out on his own. And sometimes they'll be together, sometimes it'll be Damien and Finn, sometimes it'll be Damien and Dominic and Rhea, sometimes it'll be Finn and Dominic and Rhea, and so on and so forth. So it's interesting in that this faction can isolate themselves like that and work independently while also creating this fear, this underlying fear that even if they're out there by themselves, we know that the other members that aren't present, didn't come out with them for their entrance, are lurking somewhere waiting to pounce and to assist their faction brethren. So the Judgment Day as it is right now is very cool. But unlike a faction such as the Bloodline, they don't have this deep, long story that they're telling that requires them to all be together for multiple years. This is something that can change. This is something that can evolve. This is something that could have multiple iterations within a year, a few months. You know, it's not like the Bloodline where it's a slow burn into things changing, a slow dramatic burn into things changing dramatically. The Judgment Day can alter dramatically, and I feel like it could still succeed. And this is an issue. This is a matter of an individual member like Damien Priest has done so well for himself in developing his character while within Judgment Day, mind you, that he can split off, he can be separated on his own, and he'll be just as successful, but probably even more successful as a singles guy for a while. And that's a way to make things interesting, to keep things from getting stale, change things up a little bit with this tension, send Damien Priest out on his own, because he doesn't need the Judgment Day anymore. When Damien Priest joined the Judgment Day, I could argue that he definitely needed a faction like this to kind of get his momentum going again. Like he felt a little stale and stagnant for a while there. After the first program with Bad Bunny when they were friends and they tagged together, after that, after a while, he kind of was floating out there. Same went for Rhea Ripley. Before she joined the Judgment Day, she was getting different tag team partners every couple of weeks, and things really started to slow down for her. Her momentum was shot, and she was kind of running in place for a while. And look at her now. She's fucking incredible. You could argue that Rhea Ripley does not need the Judgment Day right now. Like, she is one of the hottest superstars on the roster at the moment. She could very well be on her own. She might not even need Dominic right now. Hell, Dominic Mysterio might not even need Rhea right now. They have all done so well in elevating their value as individuals that it's very possible none of the members of the Judgment Day right now need the Judgment Day. But the Judgment Day is so good that the Judgment Day should remain a thing, just in a different version. So Damien Priest, being that he's kind of the chosen one at the moment, he's got the Money in the Bank briefcase, so he's the one that's going to be elevated. Outside of Rhea Ripley, who's already champion, she's been elevated for a while now. But Damien Priest is getting the golden baton. He's got the brass ring, I guess, right now, right? So find a way to get him out. He doesn't need the Judgment Day. This will evolve him and his character, while at the same time, it will give Judgment Day a chance to add intrigue and layers and depth and evolve as a faction. So, with Damien Priest leaving, probably because of JD McDonough and Finn Balor getting a little too close, and maybe JD joins the Judgment Day, switch things up a little bit. This is like a Bloodline situation, right? A member leaves or is banished essentially, or maybe they leave on their own, add somebody else, switch things up, and see what you got. See if this is a way to elevate JD McDonough as well. JD McDonough in NXT has proven he's fucking great. He's got great potential to be a interesting character. We know he's a phenomenal wrestler. We know the in-ring performance is fantastic. But can he be an interesting character, relevant enough to join a group as relevant as a Judgment Day? Probably. But let's see how it works. Again, his personality and the character that he has established already is a perfect fit for a group like that. And will only serve him better that his mentor, his trainer, the guy who trained him, Finn Balor, would be the guy in charge. So see what you got in that. It would be interesting. It would fit, and I could see it happening, especially the way things have played out in the last few weeks, with JD McDonough sort of appearing sporadically with Finn Balor not far behind. But let's not stop there as far as tweaks and changes go. Let's add somebody else to the Judgment Day. Why not? So this past week on NXT, something happened that caught my eye and I got to thinking. It stuck out to me, and I couldn't help myself in speculating that this might be a future change coming in the Judgment Day. So Rhea Ripley was present for this episode of NXT. She was there confronting Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams about Carmelo interfering with Finn attacking Seth Rollins on that week's Monday Night Raw. And defending Finn, she showed up, confronted Melo about it, and that was its own thing. But that wasn't all she did. She was also involved in a segment, briefly, that happened backstage between Lyra Valkyria and Jacy Jayne, where there's been some ongoing stuff between those two in the past few weeks. So Lyra was once again confronting Jacy about not playing games. She was essentially saying, Jacy, fuck around and find out. Jacy, in turn, fucked around and found out, and Lyra kicked her face in. After Lyra had walked away, we suddenly see Rhea Ripley appear, and she looks down at Jacy and says something along the lines of, I wouldn't fuck with her, Lyra's a badass. And then she just walks away. It's like they're sprinkling something in there. I don't know if it's just a random nod to Lyra Valkyria just to elevate her a little bit, but it got me to thinking maybe Rhea sees something in Valkyria and wants to recruit her into the Judgment Day. This is another matter of a character who would fit pretty well in the Judgment Day. I have never seen Lyra as a heel myself personally. I don't know if she, before NXT, played one on the indies or overseas or whatever. But her character is kind of dark and mysterious. Yes, she is a baby face at the moment, but they can change that. She's good enough. I mean, she's fucking great in the ring. She seems to have enough charisma to possibly pull off a heel character as well. So perhaps in the same vein of Finn Balor training JD McDonough, although that is real life, he actually did train JD McDonough. Perhaps this could be an instance where Rhea Ripley takes on Lyra Valkyria as her protege, and it's sort of like a mirror situation from Finn and JD McDonough. I think that'd be a cool story, and I think it would be good for Lyra because she doesn't, besides maybe additional character work, she's fucking phenomenal in the ring. She doesn't necessarily need to develop much more in that area. Maybe as far as promos and character development, yeah, maybe she might need some development in that, but she is somebody I could see WWE could easily pluck her from developmental and put her on the main roster, and she'd probably be fine. She might stumble a little bit out of the gate because she's still pretty young, but she's talented enough that she could probably adapt pretty well to the main roster very quickly. And I think with somebody like Rhea Ripley, who's been there, done that, showing her the way, I think it would work out. And what better way to introduce a character like the mysterious bird woman, Lyra Valkyria, to the entire world of wrestling fans than to plop her down in the Judgment Day under the learning tree to steal a line from Edge when he started Judgment Day, and have her essentially train under Rhea while acclimating herself to the main roster and also being in a relevant faction such as the Judgment Day. But Lyra, I've said it before, I'll say it again, she's one of my personal future pillars of the women's division in WWE. Not just NXT, but in WWE. So get the ball rolling now. Bring her up, put her in the Judgment Day, and I could very much see this segment that I'm speaking of being that little sprinkle, that little seed being planted, that is a possibility. So we've talked about and we speculated on the possibility of a new bloodline, the Bloodline 2.0, right? I completely fantasy booked it in my mind, and on paper, at least to me, it makes sense. So let's speculate and predict a possible new Judgment Day, a Judgment Day 2.0, a Judgment Day after tomorrow, if you will. Finn Balor as the leader, kind of the spokesperson. I'm pretty sure he has the most experience among any of the other remaining members outside of Damien Priest, but Damien Priest would be gone from this version of the Judgment Day. Finn Balor as the lead guy, by his side as protege, JD McDonough. Of course, you got Dominic Mysterio with Rhea Ripley, who's also with her new protege, Lyra Valkyria. I think that'd be fucking sick, right? I think that would succeed. I think it would do well. I think it would serve to elevate two up-and-comers relatively quickly, because they're two up-and-comers that are on the path to success anyway. Just expedite the process. They're both skilled enough and talented enough as performers to get that job done, to play that role well as the young up-and-comers of the Judgment Day. So you got yourself two new burgeoning superstars who are instantly involved in a storyline that is on the top level of WWE programming. And it's a great way to just elevate two young superstars with great potential very quickly and in a very interesting way. So that is my vision for the Judgment Day moving forward as this tension continues to brew between Damien Priest and Finn Balor. I don't think Damien Priest needs the Judgment Day anymore. He's elevated himself enough as a character, and WWE obviously recognizes that by making him Senior Money in the Bank. So let him go off, do his thing, and the Judgment Day can continue to be sneaky and conniving and dark and mysterious, and now they have a bird woman and a psychopath. I'd watch that. But speaking of changes and situations evolving, very interesting change and situation evolving at Money in the Bank was the Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey thing, where we saw Shayna Baszler snap, I guess, and turn on Ronda, and she put her in a chokehold in the middle of the match and walked out on her, giving the opportunity for Liv and Raquel to win back the championships that they never lost. But I did not see this coming. In fact, as I mentioned earlier, I didn't even see this match coming. I did not have it listed on my fucking predictions. I don't know how I missed this, but I wasn't even expecting this match to take place at Money in the Bank. Interesting outcome, having Shayna Baszler, I guess, Marty Jannetty-ed Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey got Marty Jannetty-ed. I don't know how to word that any better, but the Heartbreak Kid, Shayna Baszler, Marty Jannetty-ed fucking Ronda into the proverbial barbershop window. And so I guess the way this is playing out is that Shayna's going to be the face for this, which is strange. But also, if it's any indication, via Shayna Baszler's promo tonight on Monday Night Raw, I guess indeed she is going to be the face. Shayna came out on Raw to confront Ronda, and she was spitting facts. Like, that was a very real shit talking session. She was saying everything WWE fans have been thinking and not saying out loud for the most part, unless you're a podcaster or on Twitter. Just laying some sick burns on Ronda Rousey, who did, honestly, it looked like her eyes were getting a little watery. Like, she was not liking hearing some harsh truths. You know, I've been hearing chatter that WWE wants to do a program between these two, which boggles my mind as to why they formed them into a tag team not too long ago either. I guess this was meant to add intrigue to this now new feud. Weird timing. Even the way that this was pulled off at Money in the Bank, it seemed like strange timing as well. There was really no lead up. Look, this is going to be the swan song for Ronda Rousey. After this program, she's out. At least that's what the heavy rumor is that Ronda will be done, I think, after SummerSlam with WWE. And all I can say is good. That's a good thing. Ronda clearly isn't into it anymore, like in the way that she was when she first started in WWE and her first stint with the company. She seemed to be at least passionate about it. As of late, the last couple of years, honestly, she has not seemed to be as into it, as passionate about pro wrestling as she had been when she started. But I guess this is going to be Ronda doing her friend a favor on the way out, and it would be a good favor of her to do. Like, that's a good way to go out. Lend your friend some credibility. Obviously, Ronda Rousey is the bigger name as opposed to Shayna Baszler, and this would certainly give some momentum to Shayna to beat somebody with the name value of Ronda Rousey. So, honestly, good on Ronda if that's the case. Also, honestly, glad to see you go. It sucks. Like, in the past, you think of Ronda Rousey plus WWE, you're thinking in the back of your head, this is going to be monumental. Like, this woman is made for sports entertainment. And at first, it seemed like it, but as time went on, that was obviously not the case. So it's good that this is happening. It seems like it was sped up a little bit. Like, this process, again, the timing was just weird. It just kind of happened very quickly. Hopefully we'll see Shayna Baszler get the rub off of this situation and their purported match at SummerSlam. Probably Ronda's last, and probably the best way to put Shayna over as much as possible. The other bit of big news I wanted to talk about before we get out of here is the Bloodline stuff. Obviously, the Usos beat Solo Sikoa and Roman Reigns at Money in the Bank in the Bloodline Civil War. It was a good match. It was very long, but it was a good match. It was entertaining. Interesting that the Usos continue to humiliate the Tribal Chief in this way. Also, a notable thing that also happened during this match, it was very quick. It wasn't highlighted necessarily on the broadcast, but there was a moment where Roman was kind of sitting with his back up against the ropes, and he was frustrated. It almost looked like he wanted to scream out and cry. And Solo Sikoa was standing off to the side of him, and he had this look on his face of almost like, it looked like disbelief and disappointment in Roman Reigns. And I think that might be one of those little seeds being planted. And maybe there's going to be more tension between Solo and Roman, and how maybe Solo lost faith in Roman perhaps during that matchup. He had this look on his face that was like, really, dude? And then he himself went after the Usos who were down on the mat, and he started laying into them while Roman seemed to be having an existential crisis sitting down on the mat across from it. So might be something there to pay attention to. But this coming Friday on SmackDown, they're going to have a tribal court or a tribal council for Roman Reigns, much like what they did with Sami Zayn earlier in the year. That's going to be very interesting because it means the Usos are essentially calling out Roman Reigns to stand trial on television next week. So I'm curious to see how Roman responds to that. If you're Roman Reigns, do you even accept that request? It's already been advertised as a segment on television in a commercial and on Raw tonight. So it's something's going to happen. This isn't speculation. This isn't fans' fantasy booking that they should have a tribal hearing for Roman Reigns. But this is something that is being written. And if you're the tribal chief, again, why would you show up to this? You're the head. You're the head of the table, right? So like, fuck your tribal hearing. I'm Roman fucking Reigns, bro. Like, fuck off. Like, yeah, okay, you beat us. So what? Here's an excuse, and here's an excuse, and here's an excuse. But I'm not coming out to stand trial in front of you and be questioned. I'm your leader. So interesting to see how this goes. But I continue to be amazed by the ways they find to make this interesting and to evolve this storyline and to add more depth. Something that has lasted this long as the Bloodline storyline has been going. It's so easy to fuck up and to draw out for too long. And yes, there have been those moments where it's been like, okay, is this getting a little bit stale? Is this getting a little bit too drawn out? And that instantly they find a way to add something new to it. And this is just another one of those interesting elements that they're introducing. And I just find it fascinating that they continue to find ways to make this Bloodline storyline keep going and also keep interest. After all this time, I'm still interested and I'm still excited to see what happens next. I'm still waiting for, Roman to bring out some new blood for the Bloodline. I still believe. I know I had hoped it would happen at Money in the Bank, but I do still believe at some point, especially following this additional humiliation at Money in the Bank, that he's going to add some heads, some bodies to the Bloodline to surround himself with. He's got to get the strength and numbers back. After the Usos' departure, he is almost a sitting duck in his own family, so he's got to find a way to recruit some guys and surround himself with some arms, man. So I'm very excited for this Friday and to see where it goes from here. But that's really all the big stories, the bigger topics I wanted to get to this week. Some quick hits. Again, we got a returning Drew McIntyre as opposed to a returning RKO to help Matt Riddle at the end of his match with Gunther. It's one of those things should have seen coming because, Drew being from Europe and this event in Europe, it just makes that much more sense. Maybe they're saving Randy Orton for SummerSlam. We'll see. We didn't see Brock Lesnar on the night as I predicted, but hey, he showed up 2 nights later on Monday Night Raw, so I was kind of still in the ballpark on that one. Very happy for Io Sky. I really hope that this leads to something that I've been asking for, something a lot of people have been asking for a while now. That is a feud between Io and Asuka. I know, Money in the Bank contract situations don't necessarily lead to feuds. It's kind of like a quick, spontaneous thing. So Io Sky could very well just pop up out of nowhere and cash in on Asuka and perhaps take her championship from her. But that could still lead to a feud. That is a feud that I think we all need to see. It would be fucking brutal and vicious, and I hope that's what this Money in the Bank contract for Io leads to. And last but not least, I have to make a painful admission. This is not something I ever wanted to say. I never wanted to even think about this. But this past week on NXT, Baron Corbin, I gotta say, had a really good match with Carmelo Hayes. He came out to his old entrance music. He came out with the old lone wolf gimmick that he had when he first started in NXT. I gotta say, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed something Baron Corbin did. I enjoyed something modern era Baron Corbin did. Like I said last week, that Corbin has been a shit pile for years now. And that his only good gimmick in recent years has been the bum-ass Corbin gimmick. That was very entertaining. Besides his gimmick when he first started in NXT, the lone wolf gimmick, his weird biker shtick. And lo and behold, a few days later, Baron Corbin comes out with the old lone wolf weird biker shtick, just without the skullet this time around. Oh man, I've got to give Baron Corbin credit. This was a good match. I was entertained by it. And I can't believe I'm saying good things about Baron Corbin in 2023. I'm scared. I'm questioning everything about my life after this. And I don't know where to turn from here. You might never hear from me again. Baron Corbin, good job. But anyway, that's really all I have for this week. Again, my apologies for being a day late than I normally get these out on. It's been a bit of a long week. So just a quick bit of personal news that might impact this show at least for a month. I will be moving throughout this month. I will be relocating in the beginning of August, so I'll be taking care of all the logistics of that this month. So I'm going to be pretty busy between that and work and just general life stuff. I'm not certain how consistent I'm going to be with the schedule as far as this podcast goes for the rest of July, but I will be back on a regular schedule, and I'm going to try to do the shows each week. I'm going to try my best to do the shows each week. Actually, the show I'm recording right now, I almost was unable to do because I just have too much shit going on now that I know I'm going to be moving, and so if I disappear for a little bit, it's not because I just praised Baron Corbin and ended it all. It is because there's just a lot of life stuff going on right now. Moving is, I'm sure you've all done it before, takes up a lot of time, takes up a lot of energy. So if you don't see me for a little bit, that is why. I will be back, but there is still a chance I will be around consistently. It just maybe don't count on it. At least just in July. In August, once everything is settled down and I'm settled and all of that is done with, we'll get back to our dependable, regularly scheduled programming. But until then, throughout the month of July, I might be a little inconsistent, and I apologize. But it's temporary, okay? It'll be over and done with by the end of the month, and then hopefully things normalize very quickly. So just wanted to toss that in there in case anybody's wondering where the fuck is Facebuster Podcast? Why is there no new posts? Well, because of life, man. Fucking life. All right? But we'll get back to it. As for now, I'm going to get out of here. Hope you enjoyed Money in the Bank. Hope you enjoyed this episode. If you liked it, subscribe, share it, do all the things that I'm supposed to say on YouTube. You know what I mean. Hit the buttons. Do the thing. This is Facebuster Wrestling Podcast. Thanks again for joining me. Thanks for listening. I will see you again very soon. Hopefully not in a whole month, but you know what I mean. Until then, though, take care.